Make sure this is working. All right, let's make sure there we go. Good, good. All right, so qualifying buyer leads. Good morning, everyone. This is Lars Henriksen. I am the instructor today for FYR University. And today we'll be talking about qualifying buyer leads. So let me set up a couple of different scenarios. This is helpful when you are getting a call on a listing sign. It's helpful when you are first meeting a prospect to find out what their needs are. It's an opportunity for you to learn really how to qualify buyer leads anywhere you are. I've done this standing in line at a grocery store. So once you learn the principles of this class, you'll be able to qualify buyer leads anywhere you go. So originally it was intended to help agents that were having walk-in leads or sign calls. And so when we put this class together on PowerPoint, my girlfriend Suzanne is the one that does these slides, and she's amazing at doing these. Well, I said, well, honey, those look like car keys, not house keys. And she says, yeah, I did that for a reason. Before you put a buyer in a car, you want to make sure you've qualified them. So I thought that was absolutely brilliant. A little nuance, if you notice. That looks like an Oldsmobile. So, all right, so let's get started. So again, let's set the scenario. You have a buyer, you have somebody who's asking you about possibly buying a house. So what I want to do today is teach you how to qualify that lead. So to start out, let's think about what's important about communication. And what I'm going to have you do this morning is I'm actually going to have you take a quiz. So if we were teaching this in person, I would be at this point passing out a listening awareness quiz for you to take, and I'll go over that in just a minute. So some facts about communication. If you break it into the three components, effective communication is words, tonality, and nonverbal. So words only make up 7% of effective communication. Most of it is either tonality, which is how we say things, and nonverbal body language. So I want to share something with you that's really important to remember. The phone is for qualifying leads and setting appointments. It's not for selling. So one of the rules is you never want to sell on the phone, okay? And the key to be effective is to be a great listener, especially when you're on the phone. So if you're on the phone and let's say it's a sign call, I'm going to walk you through the process on a sign call. So you have a listing, you're going to have buyers calling. That's what you want to have happen. And what you want to do is give them information to get information. So you're going to have questions like how much is the house, how many bedrooms it has, questions like that. I'll go over that with you. So you want to give information to get information that you need to qualify the lead, and vice versa for the prospect. I'm going to teach you how to align and validate, to have a dialogue that's going to you're going to walk together in the process. So and I'll teach you how to instantly connect with these folks. You want to be in charge of the flow by what I call wopening. So wopening is asking questions using who, what, when, where, why, and how. And I'll teach you some great open-ended questions on qualifying buyer leads. And then you don't need to control the conversation. You'll be in charge by asking questions. And you want to think like a consumer. So let me open it up to the folks that are on the call live today. So when you're a consumer, what kind of a salesperson do you want to work with? Anybody want to jump in and what are you looking for in somebody that's going to be helping you with any kind of service or product?
Someone who has my interest.
What's that?
Someone who has my interest in mind, understands my needs.
Understands needs, good.
Knowledge,
good. Trustworthy, right? So we'll talk about building trust. So maybe somebody who's likable, who is helpful. Okay, thank you. So
non-pushy, not too pushy.
Not too pushy. Good, Rhonda. Yep, that's very good. So think like a consumer. I want to do business with somebody who's going to be looking after my needs, who's helpful, who's not pushy. So when you're first learning this process, what you want to do is go slowly until you master the process, then work on matching and mirroring the other person. So every one of you should role play, not just this class. You should be role playing every single day. I know I do every day. I role play every single day with my agents, with my girlfriend, with myself when walking the dog. I'm always role playing because I want to practice my tonality and I want to practice my words, and that's critically important. So when you're first learning a new dialogue, learn it slowly, and then once you master the process, then you can truly match and mirror the other person. And sometimes you have to slow down your pace. Sometimes you need to speed it up. Sometimes you need to be more deliberate. And I'm not gonna teach a class today on the platinum rule, but I think I'll be teaching that class next month when my turn comes up again on our Monday FYR University. And then I'm going to teach you how to get the financing component after you close for the appointment. Okay, so let me walk you through those steps. All right, so get out a pad of paper and a pen, and I want you to. There's 10 questions. I'm gonna run through it. This is really important for you to follow along because this is about your listening awareness inventory. So the first question is, do you allow people to finish what they're trying to say before you speak? And just go ahead and write down, if you always do that, or almost always, give yourself a 4. Usually is 3, seldom is 2, and never is 1. So allowing people to finish what they're trying to say before you speak, critically important. That will show the prospect that you're really interested in what they have to say. And that goes for any type of conversation. Okay, so go ahead and write that down. If they hesitate, do you encourage them rather than try to start their reply? You want to allow a person to finish their thought. So when you're on the phone or when you're face to face with somebody, again, that's really important. You need to hear what their intent is. What are they attempting to convey to you? The next one, do you withhold judgment about the person's idea until they've finished? So let a person finish their thought. I found this was especially true going on listing appointments where I would ask an open-ended question. And the beauty about asking open-ended questions, a lot of times you'll be able to get a lot more information than by you doing the talking. In fact, if you're doing all the talking, you're not learning anything. So withhold judgment about the person's idea. The next one is, can you listen fully even though you think you know it will be said? Again, are you always doing that? Are you usually doing that? Seldom or never? And in this fast-paced society, I think that a lot of times we just kind of jump to conclusions, and that's where communication breaks down. So listen fully, even though you think you know what will be said, because sometimes you want that person to take ownership of that idea so that you don't have to tell them. So again, it's about pulling with questions and not being pushy. The next is, can you listen non-judgmentally, even if you don't like the person who's talking? Okay, so for me, it's simple. If you just take the approach to love everybody, even if you don't always agree with them, for me, folks, that's a lot easier to go through life than by judging people. So listen non-judgmentally, which if you're judging people, that just takes extra energy. And just choose to accept people the way they are, and you can love them even if it's from afar. So work on that if you're struggling with that. The next one, again, really hard for me. This was a big learning curve for me, to stop what I'm doing and give full attention when listening. So we get distracted so easily. When I was managing brick and mortar offices, I got interrupted probably every 5 minutes, and I learned to stop what I was doing and give that person my full attention, because I didn't want to misunderstand something that they might be telling me. And I found that I could get a lot more work done if I just stopped what I was doing and gave them my full and undivided attention. And then the next one is the nonverbals. So do you give the person that you're speaking with appropriate eye contact, head nods, and nonverbals? So you can't do that on the phone, but you certainly need to do that in person. And that goes to the 55% of effective communication, which is nonverbal body language. Now, I've just got a few more here on the next slide, but I want you to really take this to heart. If you don't have a 4 for every single one of these, then look for opportunities for you to improve your listening skills. And a couple of other tips. have your spouse or significant other take this test and take a screenshot, and then you can just have them walk through it. And then if you really want to improve, have them grade you on all of these 10 questions. Okay. And really, you can really find out, how they see you listening to them. And it's great for couples to do this exercise. Okay. The last 3, listening fully, regardless of the speaker's manner of speaking. So if they have an accent or if they make a mistake on grammar or choice of words, you should still give them the floor. Not everybody went to Oxford or Harvard. In my area of Northern Virginia, we have one of the most diverse areas in the world. We have people from all over the world that we get to live with and to meet and to help with our real estate. And so you really need to encourage them to, if they're struggling with the English language, what I used to do is just have them say to themselves in their native tongue, and then let's see if we can find a common ground to what the intent is. So listen fully, regardless of their manner of speaking. Really important. And again, another tip is that my opinion is that the more universally appealing an agent is, the more opportunities you will have to help people. So think of that as well. And then the last 2, these are really important. We'll be doing this today in these exercises. So questioning the person to clarify their ideas more fully. So you want to make sure that you understand what they're asking or what they need help with. And then the last one, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do you always, usually, seldom, or never restate or paraphrase what is said and ask if you've gotten it right? Okay, you guys all with me? How many got a perfect score? Anybody? Kyle has a thumb down. All right, I can't see everybody, but yeah, so this is a great opportunity for you guys to learn. So take a screenshot if you can, or watch this recording again. And I encourage you to have your spouse take the test for you as well. Okay, let's move on. All right, here's the goal of the incoming call. It's to get an appointment. So you want to close for the appointment. So I'll walk you through those steps. So if it's a signed call, you'll get a call about 123 Main Street. Okay. And when the caller calls, they're going to have questions about the house, questions about the price, questions about number of bedrooms. So what you want to do is be helpful, answer their questions. So ultimately, at the end of the conversation, you will have set up an appointment, and you will have qualified this lead based on 3 components, which I'll go through in just a little bit. Okay. What it's not an opportunity to give it all away. Remember, you should never sell on the phone. You should only sell face-to-face, even if it's a Zoom call. Never sell on the phone. It's not an opportunity to eliminate the need for an appointment. You want to see if there is an opportunity to have an appointment, even if it's at a later date. It's not an opportunity for the caller or prospect to eliminate you. I remember sitting in offices hearing agents on the phone, and they seemed to be so relieved when they hung up because they didn't know what to ask the caller. And so you don't want the caller to be eliminating you because you're not being helpful, you're not being kind, and you're not listening. Okay. It's also not an opportunity to be right. So let me give you an example on how that works. Let's say that I get a call on a listing, and I've got a beautiful $800,000 single family home here in Ashburn, Virginia for sale. And I get a call from somebody, they found me on the internet, and they're calling from Kansas. And they live in a little town in Kansas, and they're moving to Northern Virginia. They're very excited. They have their house under contract, and they're calling about the house. And so, and one of the questions is, we would like to find a home that's similar to what we have in Kansas. Hey, that's great. Describe your home for me in Kansas. Well, it's a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath house. It's single family. We live on a cul-de-sac back up to woods, great school district. And we really want to have a house that's very similar to that house. Okay, great. And now the good news is that the house we're selling in Kansas, it sold for a record high, $300,000. And we want the same house in Ashburn. Okay. Now, and I've heard agents do this where they say, well, don't you know that Northern Virginia is one of the most expensive areas in the country to live, and you can't find a condo for that price? Well, guess what? I might be the agent being right about it, but guess what? You just lost a prospect. You just lost the opportunity to help somebody move. So what I want to help you with is teach you how to expand it and use a couple of other techniques to be able to get an appointment, even if they end up moving out of Ashburn, but maybe in another area. All right. And it's also not an opportunity to show them all you know. You don't want to be that know-it-all on the phone. You want to be helpful. So you need to make it all about them. Okay. So there's four areas in building rapport, and you can build instant rapport. The first is you're going to align with the caller, or it could be somebody that you meet in the line at Wegmans. So align with them. I'll give you some words on how to align with folks. You're going to determine their needs by probing, opening. You'll show them that you care, and then you're going to give them a reason to schedule the appointment. Okay? All right. So this is huge. This is one of the best things I've ever learned. Is these are the three areas that you want to qualify your buyer prospect. Okay? They're product, motivation, and how are they going to pay? Money. So all three of these, in my opinion, are equally important. You need to find out what type of house they are looking to buy. You need to know the area, and you need to know how much. And you need to make sure that that product exists in the area that they're looking for. And one of the things that I encourage all of you to do to get to know the marketplace, when I was an agent, my numbers were 15 contacts, 5 previewed homes, and 1 appointment, Monday through Friday. Okay, so 15 calls, 5 previewed homes, and 1 appointment. And by previewing 5 homes every day in one area, at the end of the week, I've seen 25 homes. I know the product. And that's critically important, folks. You can't just do surfing in the MLS and know the inventory. You need to go out and see homes. So that's important. Motivation is also equally important. If a buyer prospect is not motivated, then they will find every excuse under the sun not to buy a house. So you need to establish their time frame. I'll help you with that as well. Then the last component is how are they paying for it? We will get that at the very end when we've already closed for the appointment. So we're going to get product and motivation first, and then we're going to close for the appointment, and then we're going to find out how they're paying for it. Okay? Any questions up to this point? You guys tracking this? Good. I can't see your comments, but all right. So when somebody, so let me walk you through a phone call. So somebody rings on 123 Main Street and say, hey, I'm calling about the house you have for sale over on 123 Main Street. Well, here's what I would say on the phone. I would say, hey, that's great. Well, my name is Lars, and what is your name? So I start out right away. I want to get their name. Why? Because the person's name is one of the most important words in their language. When I say, hey, Suzanne, I'm seeing, yeah, her head lifted up. She heard her name, right? So when we hear our name, it gets our attention, and that's a great way to draw people back. It also shows people that you're listening to them and that you that you take interest in that person. So, hey, great. Well, my name is Lars, and what is your name? My name is Bill. Great, Bill. What would you like to know about the house? Okay. Well, the first question could be, well, how much is it? Bill, we have that house listed for $900,000. What else would you like to know? Now, as I'm asking these questions, I have my pen and paper out, and I'm taking notes. So I've got Bill on the phone. I'm going to start filling out the product component. So what else would you like to know? How many bedrooms does it have? Bill, that has 4 bedrooms. How many did you need? Now, you see what I did there? I gave him the information, and then I followed it up with an open-ended question. So he would say, oh, well, we need at least 4 bedrooms. Okay, wonderful. What else about the house appealed to you? Or what else are you looking for in your new home? And they'll say, well, we would like a nice backyard. Okay, great. What else? We would love to have something that's been updated, so you don't have to spend money updating it. Okay, you want an updated, what rooms would you want to be updated? What are the most important ones? So as I'm building the product, I'm writing the notes, I'm starting to construct on paper what kind of a house Bill is looking to buy. And then and then I might ask the question like, so Bill, what price range are you looking to be in? Okay, that's how much. So what price range? You say, well, we want to be under $900,000. Okay, great. How did you arrive at that price? Well, we've been going online and looking for different, for different lenders, and we think that we can be pre-qualified for that amount. Okay, wonderful. So, Bill, so once I've gotten the product, so what areas are you looking in? Okay, what's important about the house you're buying? So, is it a single-family home? Is it a townhome? Is it a condo? Is it on a lot of land? Is it smaller? Now, we'll get into more details when I do a buyer interview. This is just qualifying the appointment. All right. Next component is going to be motivation. So, Bill, what's prompting the move? Well, we're moving here because of a job transfer. Hey, that's great. Congratulations. When do you start? Well, I'm starting November 30th. Okay, wonderful. November 30th. Now, what I'm doing, folks, is, and I did this with buyers and sellers, I would write down that date. And I would say, so what's the earliest you would like to be moved into your new home? Well, we'd really like to be settled maybe 10 days before the job starts. Okay, that tells me that now he's got to be moved in by November 20th. And today is the 6th of October. So that gives us about 1 week and 1 month, right? Really about a month and a half to go from ratification to closing. So we need to find something pretty soon. It doesn't give us a lot of time. So that's a motivated buyer. I like that type of buyer. So and then so why are you moving? So what's prompting the move? When do you want to be in your new home? And then what would you do if you couldn't find something by that date? So let's look at alternatives right away. Now let me back up for a minute. That call went pretty well. What happens when, and this happens a lot with newer agents that haven't learned how to qualify leads. What would happen if one of my friends found out that I'm a brand new agent and now I have a lockbox, I can have access to any listing that's on lockbox, and they said, hey, Lars, we'd really like to look at homes. We know you're an agent now. Congratulations. Would you be willing to help us? And you know what I do? I say, well, if you can fog the mirror, I will take you out to look at as many homes as you want because I haven't learned how to qualify leads. So what if they say to me, well, Lars, I'd like to be somewhere on Route 7. Okay, well, I know Route 7. Let's go look at homes. And if I start pulling listings along Route 7, well, guess what, folks? In Northern Virginia, Route 7 goes from Alexandria all the way to Winchester. It's one road. It's one of the original colonial highways. So if I wanted to show property on Route 7 without qualifying, and they may also say, now, Lars, we don't need to move until April. So we have all the time in the world. In fact, we'll spend every weekend with you looking at homes until we buy a house. Well, am I going to drop everything I'm doing to start showing that prospect homes on Route 7? Not without qualifying them. So you don't fall into that trap. You want to nail down the motivation equally as important as the product. Okay, you guys all follow that? Now, I can say, well, hey, I'd love to help you. Let me ask you a question. If you knew that you could save some money by buying now, would it make sense to talk to your landlord about getting out of your lease? Okay, so that's a technique, what I call if blah, then would you blah. So, Bill, if you're looking to move in April, if you knew you could save some money by moving sooner, would it make sense for you to talk to your landlord about getting out of your lease? Okay, and why would they be able to save money? Well, if they're paying rent, and they have no interest deduction on their taxes and they itemize, they can probably save a lot of money on their taxes, a lot more than they would by paying 1 month's rent to get out of the lease. Okay, so a lot of agents and some of you on this call are really good at converting renters into buyers. Okay, so product, motivation, close for the appointment, and I'll walk you through it again. Now, the last one is so what I'm going to do is I'm going to restate to Bill, the prospect on the call. So, Bill, you're looking for a 4-bedroom house in Ashburn. You want to be under $900,000. You are looking to move towards the end of November, and you're moving here because of a job transfer. So, Bill, there are several other homes besides one you're calling about that meet those needs. When are you available to start looking at homes? I have time Thursday afternoon or Saturday morning. what day works better for you. Okay, so what I did is I restated the product and the motivation. So what are they looking for? Where? How much? I know the timeline. I know their motivation for moving. And now I'm going to restate to them what Bill just told me on the phone. And then I'm going to close for the appointment. He's going to give me a date. Now, this is really important, folks. As I said, each one of these three components is equally important. So then I would say, so Bill, there are several homes to meet your needs. When are you available? Monday or Tuesday? Alternate choice. I have my calendar in front of me. I'm looking to book appointments. So I'll tell you what, let's plan to meet Saturday morning at 10 a.m. So before I let you go, let's meet. I'm going to give him an address for us to meet. I'm going to probably meet at a coffee shop near one of the houses that he's looking at. There's plenty to meet at coffee shops. And that way I'll get to build some more rapport with them. So Bill, when you go to closing, are you paying cash or are you financing the purchase? So that's the money. And most people are going to say, well, we need to get a loan. Okay, wonderful. Who are you using? Well, we haven't gotten there yet. Okay, great. So I have a great lender. Her name is Ashley. She worked with Truist Bank. So when is a good time for Ashley to contact you today so she can get you pre-approved? Well, why do I need to do that? Well, Bill, when you go shopping, don't you like to know how much money you have to spend? So I find it critically important that you're pre-approved with a lender before we go shopping. That way you'll know how much you'll need for closing costs and for down payment and things like that. And it'll put us in a much stronger position when we write an offer. Okay, so let's do that again. So Bill, are you paying cash or are you financing? Oh, we need to get a loan. Okay, wonderful. So who are you using? Well, we're using my uncle's best friend who's in Alaska. Okay, great. What's their name? It's the Anchorage Halibut Salmon and Mortgage Company. Okay, well, that to me is a red flag. If they're not a local lender, that's an issue. So I would say, well, Bill, would you like a second opinion? I have a great lender. She's local. That way, if the person in Alaska can't get the loan done in time, you have a backup plan. Her name is Ashley. When is a good time for Ashley to contact you today? Okay, and what I'm doing with that is I'm the one controlling the appointment, or in this case, the call. So if you say, which most agents will say, well, why don't you call my lender? They'll never call. And folks, trust me on this. They need to meet with a lender before you start looking at homes. If they're not willing to do that, then you really have to question whether or not you want to work with those folks. Okay. And I just trust me from experience. You never want to get a buyer prospect excited about a house only for them to find out that they can't afford to buy the property. Does that make sense? All right. And I'll do this one more time with you guys. So don't get involved in busyness. Focus on doing business. So align and validate. So what I was doing with aligning and validating, I was using words like, okay, great, or wonderful, or good for you. And if I said something like, well, what's prompting the move? And they said, we're getting a divorce, then I wouldn't say good for you. I would say, ugh. So that's aligning with them. All right. So, and I knew somebody that I used to work with. It doesn't matter what you said. She would always say, good for you. Well, she wasn't listening to what I was saying. So aligning and validating, I'll go over that with you one more time. And then providing information. I was giving Bill the information about the house. I was asking open-ended questions. Then I closed for the appointment. All right. And here are some words. Don't you love this slide? Here are some words on how we align. So connecting, aligning, and validating, good for you, great. Hey, that's nice, or wonderful, or wow, excellent, super. Those are words we use to align with people. The negative ones, like I need to be in a house yesterday. Ouch. That would be an example of aligning with somebody, and it might be more negative. Okay, just some ideas for you. All right, and then provide what they want. We covered that already. And then I was using open-ended questions. So I'd like to know about that house. Great, Bill, what would you like to know? How many bedrooms does it have? It has 4 bedrooms. How many did you need? Oh, we need at least 4. Okay, great. What else are you looking for in your new home? Well, we want a backyard with a fence. Wonderful. What else? So I'm helping them build in their mind what kind of a home they're actually going to buy. It's a beautiful thing, folks. Once you get this down, you'll be able to construct in your head and on paper what kind of a home they're looking to buy. with a lot more detail before you even meet with them in person. Okay, what's prompting the move? How long have you been looking? I would get sign calls from people that just wanted to go look at the house. Okay, and a lot of times they would have an agent. So when I kind of felt that in my gut that it sounds like they know a lot about the buying process, I bet you they have an agent. I wouldn't say, do you already have an agent? I would say, how are you going about your search? And what they would say is, well, my agent's in Ocean City this weekend. We were hoping we could go out and see the house this weekend. Well, guess what? I wasn't the agent that was going to drop everything I was doing just to show one house. That never happened because I learned right away as an agent that I needed to qualify them on the phone. So if I said, well, how long have you been looking, or how are you going about your search? Well, our agent's out of town. I would always say, hey, great, that's wonderful. So you align and validate. Hey, that's wonderful. Who is your agent? Oh, it's Missy. Oh, wonderful. Missy over at Remax. Oh, wonderful. Missy, she's wonderful. Well, listen, I don't want to interfere on that agency relationship. When Missy gets back from Ocean City, why don't you have her call me? And if the home is still available, let's set up a time to meet. Now, folks, that was how I did business. You will have to decide on your own whether or not you want to go and show Missy's clients around for the weekend while she's in Ocean City. Okay, that's your choice. I never did it. And sometimes I would get calls from folks on the street that were angry that the house was at a certain price, whether it was too high or too low. And so they would call and just want to argue. I've had conversations like that before. And I'm not going to show a house to somebody who's renting who is just mad that the homes got so expensive. And that would happen. So without probing, without really opening up the conversation, you will find yourself wasting time. So we talk about close for the appointment when the odds are in your favor of getting paid. If you don't get paid, we call that volunteer work. And folks, there's plenty of organizations in your area that need your volunteer work. It's not showing people around that just want to look at houses. Okay. Make sense? All right. And then close for the appointment when they need it. So when the odds, as I just said, when the odds are in your favor to make money, I mean, how many of you are doing this just because you love people? It helps to love people, right? And you can help a lot more people when you love them. My point is that you're in this to make money. You need to qualify these leads. Okay. So some dialogue that you've already heard from me is, once Bill's established what type of home he's looking for and what his time frame is, I'm going to say, well, Bill, we have several other homes in addition to the one that you're calling about that might meet your criteria. When is a good time to meet so we can see all of them? Is today at 4 a good time for you, or would you rather meet Saturday at 10? Okay, so I'm going to give them a couple of choices, and that's a great way to close for an appointment. And you can do that anytime you're trying to meet with somebody. Give them a couple of options that will work for you. And when I was an agent, I always had time blocked off for appointments. I had time blocked off for previewing homes. It was usually after lunch. I always had time for prospecting. That was in the morning. And I always had time for appointments. That was generally afternoons, evenings, and weekends, usually Saturday. Okay. And then, so I got the product, got the motivation, closed for the appointment. And then, so Bill, how are you paying? Are you paying cash? Are you financing? Now, if they say I'm paying cash, hey, that's great. Let's make sure you have all the documents ready. So if we do write an offer on Saturday, we can provide those to the listing agent and the seller. So it's going to be a bank statement, or a lot of higher priced buyers are going to have a letter from their bank. Okay, it's whatever the seller and the listing agent find acceptable, but you want to have that ready to go. Okay, and again, if they don't want to meet with your lender, then that's a red flag in my book. Okay, if they just want to look at homes, then you really need to ask yourself, do you really want to put them in your car for the next 6 months every weekend? Okay, I wouldn't. All right, and then the last is, so would it be helpful for our lender to contact you so that he or she can get you started on the loan process? Well, why do I need to do that? Well, one of the most challenging parts of buying a home, Bill, is getting the loan approval. Okay, and that might take some time. It really depends upon how organized you are with your finances. So I work with a great lender. She's local. Her name is Ashley. When is a good time for Ashley to contact you today? Okay, and you should have a number. So when I was an agent selling, I would have a number of lenders that I would be able to refer. And I normally did it based on personality style. Okay. So you want to match up somebody that you think will be compatible with your loan officer. So have a handful. It's not just one. All right. And then okay, good. And we're almost out of slides here. So I'll open it up for questions if you guys have any questions or comments. So we'll open the door to the incoming call. Remember, your goal is to get an appointment. Asking open-ended questions, I call it opening, will help you find the opportunity. Remember, the call is not about you. It's all about them. The key is to opening the door is to ask open-ended questions. Any question that begins with a what word or how or have will do the trick. And and here's some, I forgot about this slide. This is a great one. So here's some examples, and take a screenshot of this if you'd like. So here's some examples of what. So what is it about the property that appealed to you? What are you looking for in your new home? That's product. Motivation is what's your time frame for making a move? What kind of a home do you currently live in? Because they may say, I want to buy a home that's similar to the one I have that I'm selling. Okay. What amenities are you looking for in your new home or neighborhood? That's a good one. Could be who got the job transfer, who's making the buying decision, who else do you know in the area, who else is moving with you. On a listing appointment, it could be who else will you be interviewing for the job. I would always ask that on listing appointment opportunities. Why are you calling about this particular home? Why do you need 4 bedrooms? Why are you moving? Why are you renting instead of buying? And then motivation, when are you planning on making your move? When will you be ready to buy? When does your new job start? When can we get together to discuss your new home? I'm available today or tomorrow. Where are you going to be working? Sometimes it's going to be, how far of a commute they want. So that's important as well. So where will you be working? If they're telecommuting, that gives you more options. If they are working in DC and we're in Loudoun County, you might want to talk about the MARC train going into DC and the Metro coming out of Ashburn. Where have you looked for homes so far? Is a good one. Where would you prefer to be? And I love the one. I'll go back to the caller who already has an agent. And you can do the same thing. Think about this at an open house. If people are looking at open houses and you're hosting the open house, I always ask, how are you going about your search? Okay. And, a lot of times to me, that's a lot better than asking the question, do you already have an agent? I would never ask that question because it's not an open-ended question. So how are you going about your search is, I think, a much better approach. Where would you prefer to be? And then would you need to sell before you buy? Would you be buying by yourself? Would you need to secure a mortgage to buy? Those are some good would questions. And then will you consider other towns or home styles? So, the caller from Wichita, Kansas that wants to buy a $300,000 single family home in Ashburn, that probably would have been okay about 1996, but in 2025, there aren't any single family homes in Ashburn in that price range. So would you consider other towns or home styles? So we call that expanding the search. So when you expand a search, you're going to open it up to either a different area, a different price range, a different style of home. Okay. Will you need to sell before you buy? Will anybody be assisting you? Will schools be a consideration for you? Will you be needing public transportation? Will you have any special needs? And always be aware of fair housing and discrimination. You don't want to ask questions that might be construed as such as a violation. So just be careful of that. And then again, I've already given you this dialogue. We have several homes that might meet your needs. When can we get together to discuss how I can help you? Is Friday good, or would you prefer Saturday? Okay. And then my last slide is from the dean of the Harvard Business School. I love this quote. He says, "I would rather walk the sidewalk in front of a person's office for 2 hours before an interview than step into that office without a perfectly clear idea of what I was going to say and what that person, from my knowledge of his or her interests and motives, was likely to answer." So it's so important to learn how to qualify leads. I'm looking at my chessboard here and figuring out my first move is going to be knight to right here. Okay, and that's it for slides. Let me move you guys over. Okay, So let me read the comment board here. Motivation will always come from pain or pleasure. That's true. Christine, good morning. And when asking about how will they pay, always say cash or financing versus financing cash. Oh, I like that tip. Good. Are you paying cash or are you financing the purchase? Very good. Love it. And Brendan, good morning, Brendan. Thank you for the fantastic information. Thank you for that. All right. Any other comments, questions? Do you need help with anything? We've got a little time. I can field any questions. And if not, then you know what? We're just going to get on with our Monday. And I will say thank you all for joining me. So who's got a question? Does this help?
This is so helpful, Lars. Quick question. I think everybody gets, I'm 4 years into real estate here, and everyone gets the WhatsApp, hey, I'm ready to go purchase $1 million through their, lead generation and such. I've called a few of those just to, have fun. I was like, this probably isn't going to go anywhere, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you even ever respond to those? Do you ignore them? Do you even take the time and effort to go through those?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I've seen that more and more over the last 4 or 5 years. So if they are not willing to get on the phone with me, then it's probably a scam. Okay, if that's what you're asking, there's so many scams out there. I get scam attempts probably 7 times a day. So again, if they're not willing to get on the phone with me and have a conversation, then that's a red flag. And I think what is happening is there's if you listen to the FBI, I've been to a couple of meetings recently with FBI agents that are investigating fraud, and guess what? They really are going after all of us, especially people in my age bracket and older that are susceptible to fraud. So if that's what you're asking, if it's a WhatsApp and they're not willing to get on the phone with me, then there's probably not a great prospect. And one theory about that I have with buyers is that the best buyer prospect is somebody who needs to buy a home in the next 30 to 45 days, or they're going to be homeless. Okay. So I want to qualify them to the point of, you know what, this may not be the right fit for my business at this time, because I would rather invest my energy in helping people that need my help now. And I really want to take a lot of my energy and find listings, because listings are, I don't care what market you're in, it's always best to have listings. Okay. And I would rather lose a buyer that wanted to buy 8 months from now. I'd rather have them work with somebody else than spend every weekend for the next 8 months looking at homes with them. It's just not a good use of my time. And also, we do have great tools. Just putting them on an MLS search drip campaign and then following up with them. So if they're looking to buy in April, but they want to look at homes now, what I suggest is send them listings, have them drive the neighborhoods. I always said drive neighborhoods after the school buses drop off the kids in the afternoon, and also Saturday morning. That way you get a really good sense of the neighborhood and find out if it's going to be a good fit for you and your family. But that's going to save you time than as opposed to taking people out. And I wasn't sure who was talking there, but does that answer your question about the WhatsApp?
Yeah, thank you. This is Kyle.
Oh, hey, Kyle. Yeah. So I know a number of the agents on the call that I work with have gotten those types of solicitations. And I think that most of them are scams, because again, if they're not going to get in on the phone with me, then I'm not, it's probably not the right person. And there are so many scammers out there.
I will say though, some of these guys will get on the phone with you. I've had 3 calls in the last 2 months with assistants that text me, hey, so and so's traveling. He likes to work on WhatsApp, and I'm already red flag, right? But then I get them on the phone and we have a conversation about what they're looking for. That they're going to be buying cash. It's usually multi-million dollars, of course, right? And so you're like, okay, well, maybe it's real. And then they start only messaging and it's like dumb stuff. And they ask me the same questions over and over again. And I'm like, no, bro, you are just irritating me. And then I end up having to block them because it doesn't make any sense. But be careful, because sometimes they will get on the phone with you. It's wild.
Yeah, The
I'm
minute
just trying to figure out what are they trying to do? Does anybody know what the end goal of that is, just out of curiosity?
So I think I know. So they want to somehow get somebody's financial information. So bank, routing number, and account. Say, well, let me wire you some money so that so that it'll be, because it's coming from overseas. Would you mind if I just let it sit in your account for 60 days?
Yeah,
So
but who's going to fall for that? It goes to the title company.
Unfortunately, people do. Unfortunately, I'm just telling you.
Yeah, that's
we went to a FBI agent training maybe 6 months ago, and she had all the statistics. It's so alarming. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars of scams, if not more, if not in the billions. So
there was one here in Delaware, someone selling a piece of land, and it literally went to closing, and the attorney caught it right at the end that this is a scam. So what I'm doing and what the attorney said is anybody that won't meet with me in person or is at a distance, hold up your license next to your face and take a picture of it.
So interestingly enough, that's how I figured out the last two, was because I actually asked them to send me a picture of their passport, because if you're traveling internationally and that's why you need to use WhatsApp, then you have a passport. And of course they didn't want to do that. So here we are.
Yeah.
I like that, Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle, great question and great input, Christine. So, I would be very, very careful. And I get calls about once a month from agents that ask me, is this a scam? And, I would say the vast majority of the time it's an absolute scam. And like Christine said, even if they get on the phone with you, you need to be careful. But I think the end game is to get your bank account information. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I hope this helped. I have a whole other class that segues into from this class, which is your buyer system. So I'll get that scheduled at some point soon. And if anybody would like a copy of these slides, they're for you to take. And whoever commented on the great slides, Suzanne, I can't take credit for the slides. So I'm always blown away by how well my girlfriend does these slides. So thank you, Suzanne. My Suzanne, not Suzanne Fox. All right. And that's about all I got for today, folks. So if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to bid you a happy Monday. Make it a great week. October and May are the two best months to be alive in Virginia, I think. I love the weather here. And if you're in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, we've got a lot of stuff going on this month. So I hope to see you guys. And it's great to see Mike Corin's assistant. Looks like we're in the same place. So tell Mike hi.